Okay, so we're in the middle of exploring some of Kabbalah's deep concepts here, mainly how the worlds function. Four worlds, as we mentioned. In each of the four worlds, we have the 10 Sefirot, the 10 attributes, and we're focusing now on the world of action, which is our world, the lowest of all worlds, and how God comes to reveal himself. Now, of course, there's tzimtzum, as we said, this contraction that happens from the Or Ein Sof, from God's infinite light that comes unreservedly in the highest of worlds, in Atzilut, in the world of emanation, but is contracted as it goes down all the way to this world where God's light is hidden. That's why we said the word for world in Hebrew is olam, which means concealed, referring to God's light being concealed. But still, it uses the same 10 attributes to reveal itself. We're speaking now about this attribute of Malchut De'asiyah, which is the lowest of the 10 attributes, or the lowest of the 7 motional attributes, Malchut, which is kingship. And that's how God reveals himself as a royal king. And in many ways, to access that, we too need to be royal kings. We have to have complete control over our animal soul, that have that same royal authority, so to speak, over ourselves, over any inclination, negative inclination, and we have to do so with tremendous humility. The last topic that we spoke about last week was how specifically through humility we can become channels of God, of godliness. Arrogance is what blocks or what kicks God out of the room, so to speak, because we don't let him in. Humility is what enables God to truly come in. How to attain this, I think we're going to speak about today. So let's continue where we left off again with these deep Kabbalistic concepts, but again, that are very relatable. Middle of page 102, as you mentioned, Margaret, does anyone want to read? Including anyone?
I'll read if nobody else
Please,
wants
go for it.
to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Including Chachma Diasiya, wisdom of the world of action, wherein is clothed Chachma de Malchut Atzilut, wisdom of royalty in the world of emanation, incorporating Chachma de Atzilut, wisdom of the world of emanation, which is illuminated by the light of the blessed Ein Sof itself.
Right.
Sanctity is a realm of perfection unto itself, a complete continence in the language of Kabbalah. For this reason, the most minuscule unit of sanctity holds within itself boundless universes of holiness. So, too, the spiritual legacy of a Jew, even if grounded perhaps in the lowest levels of sanctity, contains within itself the most sublime heights. The transmission of sanctity, then, does not necessarily follow a neatly organized hierarchy. Every neshama, no matter how common, contains the entire world of sanctity and a direct link to God himself, for every neshama is infused again and again with the potential to make a fresh start. This sounds wildly optimistic, a spiritual rags to riches story, yet the least one shall become 1,000, for he bears within himself, as it were, the patriarchs, the chariot itself, though concealed, of reduced dimension and imperceptible.
Right. So you may think, well, this is impossible to attain that level of royalty, as we mentioned, or that level of connection with God. Well, even what may appear as the smallest of people can attain that because we have that godly soul, as we've so often mentioned. Every neshama contains the entire world of sanctity and a direct link to God himself, as Rabbi Steinsaltz writes here. And therefore, it's never too late. Therefore, the Talmud says, "Afal pi shechata Israel hu," that even though a person may sin time and time and time again, still there's always a moment in which he can reset himself, so to speak, through that divine soul. Now, again, to achieve that, I just want to explain what the Tanya itself said before this commentary. This chokhmah de malchut datzilut, which means the wisdom of the kingship of Atzilut, of the world of emanation, which is also revealed within the person, as it is revealed also in this world of action. What does this mean? The wisdom of the malchut of the kingship. So we said kingship, just to explain these two Kabbalistic terms. Malchut, the lowest of the attributes, refers again to our ability to be kings and queens over ourselves, over our inclinations, that we remain royal. We don't lower ourselves to the level of the evil inclination of the animal soul. We're always in charge, so to speak, or in the driver's seat. We may have, as the Beinani does, we may still have a very uh, uh, vivacious animal soul that sends all sorts of negative thoughts to our minds, but we're able immediately to push them out because again, we are kings of this being here, kings or queens. That's malchut. Chokhmah is how we achieve this control. Chokhmah means wisdom. Now, it's not our personal wisdom. It's God's wisdom. God's wisdom that maybe is condensed into the question of, okay, I'm facing this dilemma. I have the animal soul speaking to me, and I have the godly soul speaking to me too. So the question then becomes, what does God want me to do? Who does God want me to follow? Let's use God's wisdom. What does God tell me? Now, to access God, of course, it's through humility, through that nullification of oneself, because the more present your ego is, the less you'll be able to listen to God. So in order to really access this chokhmah that can guide you towards full kingship and authorship and ownership of yourself in the godliest of ways, you need humility. But it's specifically through asking this question and accessing that wisdom of God that can guide us. By the way, it's very much connected to this week's Parsha. We're starting the third book of Moses, and the very first word in the third book of the Torah, which we're starting this coming Shabbat, is Vayikra. Right? The name of this week's Parsha is also Vayikra, and it refers to God calling Moses and then commanding Moses and Aaron to bring sacrifices to the temple, first to the tabernacle and then later to the temple in Jerusalem. But if you look at every Torah in the world, in fact, there are arguments within halacha, within law, whether a Torah that doesn't have this, and I'm about to say what this is kosher or not. But every Torah in the world has the Aleph of Vayikra spelled or written, in a very, very small way. If you compare the Aleph of Vayikra is spelled Vav Yud Kuf Resh Aleph. The last letter of Vayikra is an Aleph. That Aleph is written in a very, very small way as compared to the other letters. And again, some say that if you have a Torah that doesn't have that small Aleph, it might not even be kosher. Why is the Aleph written in such a small way? And that is really a topic of conversation among the Talmudic sages and others, but Rashi brings out, and many others do too, but brings out this idea that it refers to Moses' humility that enabled him to Vayikra, to listen. Vayikra means, and he called, to be in tune with the calling of God, and then to fulfill it. Moses was the most humble man on earth, as the Torah itself says much later on, in the book of Numbers, in Bahalotcha. But because of his humility, he was able to access this chokhmah again, this wisdom that guided him towards doing all the commandments and teaching them to the nation. It was specifically his small aleph, because he was so small that he was able to vayikra, to listen to the calling. And in many ways, this is what should relate to every one of us, that in order to access God and be really kings over ourselves and in full control, then we have to have that level of humility. We too have to be made of small alephs, so to speak. To go a little bit deeper into this, and I hope I'm not boring you here with all the complexities of these Kabbalistic ideas, but Chokhmah, the sages teach, also the Kabbalistic sages teach, that Chokhmah is really the word for wisdom in Hebrew, but it's also a combination of two words, two Hebrew words. If you switch the letters around in the word Chokhmah, you can spell the words Koach Ma, which means the strength of what? Now, conventional wisdom might tell you that there is no strength in what? In acting stupid, as many people will say, and being the person that always says, what? Well, here, the Kabbalah teaches the exact opposite. The strength of the person, the divine strength of a person, comes from his ability to say, well, I don't know it all. So what? What? Teach me. What? Strength of what? That's wisdom. The ability to nullify yourself and to say, I'm always a student. That's why, again, a sage is called a student of wisdom, Talmid Chacham. I'm always in the space of knowing that I don't know. That's the ultimate wisdom, because that's when you can access the divine wisdom. That's when your Vayikra is channeled, is allowed to flow through you, because your arrogance, your ego doesn't block it. So true wisdom is not saying I know it all. True wisdom is saying I know nothing. That's why maybe the Kabbalists say that one of the most powerful lines in the Zohar is Tachlit hayediah shelo leida. It's very powerful, which means that the goal of knowledge is to not know. Now, what does that mean? The goal of knowledge is to know. That's conventional wisdom. But divine wisdom, again, chokhmah, that makes you into a king or queen over yourself, is specifically being in that space where I'm what? What? I need to learn more. The goal of knowledge is to not know, because when you do not know, that's when you know. That's when you can know. That's when you can be a channel to Vayikra. When you know, that's when you're blocked. Say, I know it all. Then you can access anything because you're the source of knowledge. So tachlit hayediah shelo leida. The goal of knowledge is to not know. That's what koach, that's what true chokhmah means.
This meeting is being recorded.
And that's what that word chokhmah really means. Again, koach ma, the strength of what? Always being in that state of what? What? Teach me more. I need to know more. That's that small aleph again, and that's how you can access the real. Just gonna mute all, and then if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself, and we encourage you to speak. But I'm just gonna mute all so that we don't have background noises, if you don't mind. But I'm saying that's how you can access the true chokhmah, is being in that state of what, and that's how you access the divine wisdom, which again gives you then the ability to really become that king, that queen over your negative thoughts, over the animal soul altogether, so that God is the one that reigns in you and through you. So that's the big idea. I know these were maybe complex ideas, but they're very, very necessary ones, I would say. Again, okay. I don't want to be the only one speaking, so please feel free to speak your minds. Just shouldn't be just a monologue. You can unmute yourself, because I think I've muted you all now again. If you want to speak, please feel free. Otherwise, we can continue. Does anyone want to say anything? Otherwise, please continue. Margot, I know I muted everybody, so
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
As is written, the Lord has founded the earth in wisdom. God established the earth with the attribute of Chachmah, and in this sense, Chachmah, the highest of attributes, where the light of the Ein Sof himself radiates, is revealed in the earth in Malkut, the lowest of attributes.
Go, just maybe, a little bit
And in
more.
wisdom you have made them all. Wisdom, or Chachmah, is the vessel through which God acts and is revealed within the worlds.
Right. So that's how God created this world, with this power of Chokhmah, of giving us the ability to connect with Him through humility, as we said. By the way, I just want to connect to the verse that was mentioned in the previous paragraph at the very bottom of page 102 here. And that is that how do you access indeed this divine wisdom? By being in that state of what? What does that mean? So yeah, we have a beautiful verse, which is really a verse from Isaiah, says that where Isaiah prophesies that Katon Yela Aleph Vatzair LeGoy Atzum. which means, and that's the rest of the verse here, that the least one shall become 1,000, or the small one, a katon, will become 1,000. And then it continues to say, and the young will become a powerful nation. V'atzair legoy atzum, powerful nation. And again, the Kabbalists point out, just again, emphasizing the same point, that it is when you see yourself as small that you can be 1,000. See, the small one shall become 1,000. When you see yourself as a small aleph, that's when you can become 1,000, because that's when you channel the Vayikra. Same with the young. If you see yourself as young and still with so much to learn because you're young, then you can become a powerful nation because God gives you that power. Then you access it. That's the deeper meaning of this verse here. I recall how this man was celebrating, I think, his 80th or his 90th birthday, and he came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it's on video, for a blessing. He came to receive $1 on one of these Sundays where the Rebbe would stand for hours. And at one point, the man, I think, says to the Rebbe that, I've become an old man. And the Rebbe immediately corrects him and he says, the guy was again 80 or 90, so you could say, well, yes, he was old. But the Rebbe said, you know what the difference is between a young man and an old man? And the man says, yeah, in his age. No, not the age. The Rebbe says it's just in a question that both pose. They just pose it in a different way. The young man, let's start with the old man. The old man asks, what have I achieved in life? The young man asks, what have I yet to achieve in life? So as long as you can ask yourself, what have I yet to achieve? You're very young. You could be 90 years old, but you still have a lot to achieve. That inspired the old man. I think he did a big project afterwards. In fact, he's good friends with the chief rabbi of the Kotel that some of you know. And I remember he told me what project, but I forgot. He took upon himself a new project. But that's the idea, that how can you become a great nation? How can you become 1,000 if you say to yourself, okay, I haven't reached the peak yet. I still have so much to achieve. I'm still small and therefore have so much more to do. That's what makes me young. But on the other hand, that's how the young turns into a powerful nation. That's what a young, that's how a small person becomes really thousands. What have I yet to achieve? And that comes again from being a small aleph, as mentioned before. And now, again, this is accessing the divine wisdom. Now, as we mentioned at the top of page 103, that really is the wisdom with which God created the world. B'chokhmah yasad eretz. That's the verse in Hebrew, that God founded the world with this chokhmah. Now, of course, God's creation is continuous. We say that in the prayer every day before the Shema, Amechadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid, that God renews creation every day. In fact, not just every day, every moment. If God wouldn't renew this creation, right now, the world would cease to exist. So every moment, it's like Jean-Paul Sartre, who was a French existentialist, said that we don't live life, we are resuscitated every moment of life. Because God really gives us a new creation every moment. Every breath is a new creation. That's because God created something from nothing. If you create something from something, you can let it go. After this cup was made of paper, I guess, then the designer of this cup left it. That's it. We don't know where he is. I don't even know who he is. He's divorced from this cup because he created something from something. But if you create something from nothing, then the second you let go, it reverts to its original state. Just like if I let this go for thousands of years, it will revert to being a piece of paper. But if that something is let go, then it reverts to nothing. It ceases to exist. That's the creation of something from nothing. And therefore, God really is engaged in this continuous creation every single moment. And that's why when we say that b'chokhmah yasad eretz, God created this world with wisdom, It's not just in the past, but every moment this wisdom is accessible because God creates this world every single moment. And again, by being Aleph, small Alephs, we can access this divine wisdom by asking, what have I yet to achieve? By knowing that I'm always in a state of what? Koach ma, of that type of wisdom, of knowing that I will never know, that I can access this wisdom that is being activated right now by God to create this moment in this world. So that's really what this verse also refers to here at the top of page 103.